This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Saturday morning. Good morning, Yankees fans. And welcome to the Dr. Sem Saturday Yankees program here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. We're here to talk Yankees baseball. And of course, you can watch this live, as many of you do, or you can watch it on YouTube and Facebook and Roku. And of course, a link is always placed on the Start Spreading the News page, because Start Spreading the News is the home of our Yankee Thoughts, my Yankee Thoughts. I'm Dr. Paul Sevendinger, the editor-in-chief of the wonderful, terrific, fantastic, the best Yankees site there is on the internet. Start Spreading the News. We've been around since 2017. We have a great staff of writers. We put out original content every single day. We are writers who speak from the heart, who understand the game of baseball, and who write about the game of baseball from our own perspectives. All of the writers don't agree. We have obviously readers and commenters who come in and make different points. We don't all always agree, but we do it respectfully. We do it kindly. We do it appreciatively, because in the end, it's all about talking baseball. And that's what we love to do. Of course, what we really love is watching the Yankees win. And here in 2022, after the Yankees seemingly won every single day in April and May and June, they decided, well, they didn't decide, but they stopped winning, right? And the Yankees, who at one point were on pace to win 120 games, and from one point this was going to be a magical season, it's all slowly falling apart. In the second half, the Yankees have 19 wins. They have 28 losses. I believe they have 4 wins and 4 losses here in the month of September. But, a lot of that's due to the fact that they've beaten up on the Twins. Without the Twins, the Yankees' record in September would be much worse. I was at the game the other day, the doubleheader from the rainout. This was on Wednesday night, and I watched the Yankees in game 1 barely, and I do mean barely, defeat the Twins. That wasn't a game the Yankees necessarily won. It was a game that the Twins refused to win. The Twins made a million errors. They played terrible baseball, and yet the game went on inning by inning into extra innings with the Yankees unable to put it away. Finally, they did. And of course, they celebrated on the field like they had just done something tremendous, but they really hadn't. It was more a matter of the Twins kept giving them opportunities. And after the Yankees declined those opportunities inning after inning, finally taking advantage of the opportunity and getting a win. But it wasn't like they really won the game. Of course they did. In the standings, it's a win, and a win is a win is a win, and the Yankees need wins. But they're a team that's not playing well. They're a team that's playing poorly. And the frustrating thing for me as a Yankee fan, and for so many other Yankee fans, is that we've seen this for a long time. We've seen this year in and year out. We have seen poor roster construction. The Yankees traditionally have been a team that relies on left-handed power and left-handed pitching. If you look through the history of the Yankee teams that win and have won and are World Series champions, they're usually defined by left-handed power and left-handed pitching. The Yankees haven't really had that for years. Oh, they tried last year at the deadline, finally picking up Joey Gallo and Anthony Rizzo. And it worked for a little while. But of course, Gallo has since been traded. He did not perform well in the Bronx. And Rizzo right now is hurt. He's injured. And that's a bad thing, of course. And we feel bad for him. But the fact that the Yankees roster was built without that in mind speaks to a flaw and a problem, as I say, that the fans have seen for a long, long time. The decision making just doesn't seem to make sense. And that started a long time ago, but it really starts with this current iteration with the firing of Joe Girardi. I know he wasn't necessarily fired, he just wasn't welcomed back, but with the firing of Joe Girardi after he took a Yankee team that was not that good and brought them within one win of the World Series. The Yankees then let him go. They felt, as the stories say, that maybe he was being too tough on some of the young players, specifically catcher Gary Sanchez. The idea at the time was if the Yankees brought in a new person, a visionary, someone who relates better to players, that the performance on the field would improve, that the product would improve, and that the Yankees would once again achieve greatness, that they would get to the World Series. Well, that hasn't happened. That did not happen in 2018. That did not happen in 2019. That did not happen in 2020. That did not happen in 2021. And it does not seem likely at all to happen in 2022. Now, anything can happen, of course. The Yankees are still in first place. You know, the Yankee loyal, the faithful. And I am one of them. I've been a Yankees fan since 1977. If you were able to see the room where I'm broadcasting from, it's completely full of Yankees memorabilia and Yankees books. And you can even see some of that behind me. Yankees pictures. I love the Yankees. I've invested much of my life, my free time, in the Yankees. It's not that I don't love them. I love them to death. But they just haven't played well. And they haven't looked great for years. The Yankees used to be defined by greatness. They're not any longer. The point that they are can't be made. The Yankees seem content with good enough. So they brought in Aaron Boone after that 2017 season with the idea that he was going to come in and take them to the next level. I said at the time on the site, which was brand new at the time, that hiring made no sense. That's nothing against Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone might become a great manager. He hasn't proven to be one yet. But you don't take a team that's one win from the World Series and not bring back the manager and replace him with a person who's never managed before. You know, Aaron Boone, if, as they said, he was great with young players, and how they would have known that, I have no idea, since he had no managerial experience and had no coaching experience, not in the major leagues, not in the minor leagues, not at the collegiate level, not even little league. He hadn't ever coached. He hadn't ever managed. So how the Yankees could have even known that he could be a major league manager and relate to young players and bring out the best of them was at best a guess. It was a huge leap of faith, and it hasn't paid off. And except for Aaron Judge, who had already established himself, I'd like to know which great young players the Yankees have that flourished or have flourished or are flourishing under Aaron Boone's tutelage. There aren't any. This is what I'm saying. The Yankees seem to set excellence, being the best, as the benchmark. It doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels like, well, it's good enough. We have another winning season. We've had 31 or 30 consecutive winning seasons. And hey, that's great. But The Yankees used to be defined as the team that goes out there and does whatever it takes to win. And it just doesn't feel that way. And it has not felt that way through the entire Aaron Boone era. Again, if Aaron Boone were brought in to a team that were rebuilding, and you want to say we want to give this brand new manager an opportunity, we want to give him a chance to grow with an organization, to grow with the kids, and to build a solid foundation that in a couple of years is going to make us great, that would have made sense. But to bring in a person who's never managed or coached at any level before and to say, you are tasked with taking this team to the World Series because we were just one win away, that's what the Yankees were saying, was a leap of faith. And it hasn't worked. And this year, we're seeing the disastrous results of the fact that it hasn't worked because without experience, even though he has a number of years experience with the Yankees, but without that long experience, the Yankees have no answers to this slide. Again, they're 19 and 28 in the second half. But again, that's also illustrative of the fact that it's been this way for a long time. The Yankees are falling apart. I'm not very high on the Yankees of 2023, and we'll have lots more time to talk about this in the offseason. But let me just ask the obvious question. If you were Aaron Judge and you were a free agent and you were going to be 31, so you know that the next contract you sign is going to be the one that's going to take you through probably the rest of your career, would you re-sign, all things being equal, with the Yankees? Would you look at the Yankees as they're currently constructed and currently run and say, I think this is the team that's going to have the best chance for me to reach and win a World Series? Aaron Judge cannot be saying that. He can't, because it's obviously not true. It can't be true. If you look around at the Yankees, this is not a well-constructed team. It's not a team that looks like it's going to get better. It's a team that looks like it's going to get worse because the core aging veterans are core aging veterans. And they just don't look good. And the manager doesn't seem to have an idea on how to turn it around. The Yankees seem to operate from game to game rather than having a big picture vision. And when they have a big picture vision, the big picture vision doesn't seem to make sense. We've heard Aaron Boone say when he sat players who are hot, well, we decided days ago that he would rest that day. That's not a manager that seems to have a feel for the game. And then we heard when the Yankees traded Jordan Montgomery in early August, but they had to have been making these decisions in July, that, well, Montgomery's not going to pitch in the postseason. He's not going to pitch in the postseason. How do the Yankees know in July or early August what is going to happen in October? And the Yankees jettisoned him away. Now, the Yankees went into the trade deadline needing starting pitching. And then they traded away one of their starting pitchers. I'm not saying that Jordan Montgomery was an ace, but he was second on the team the last 2 years in innings pitched. He was a solid, dependable, reliable pitcher, and they sent him away. They brought in Frankie Montas, which, hey, I was happy about that, but it wasn't an addition. It was a replacement, even though the order of the trades was Montas came first and then Montgomery went. But the idea is they needed pitching. People were saying they could use 2 new starters. They brought one in, and then they let one go. They also let go a lot of AAA pitching depth. So the Yankees ended up being shorter in the starting pitching department. It made no sense. And then the results of that trade have been disastrous. The pitcher they brought in, ostensibly to replace Jordan Montgomery, Frankie Montas, who everybody said, no, not everybody, but so many said was a better pitcher. But if you go on any statistical site and you look at the career records of Montas and Montgomery, right up to the point of the trade, they're basically the same pitcher. Except Montgomery, as we say, is a left-handed pitcher, which the Yankees usually build around, and Montas is a right-handed pitcher. And since that trade, well, it's been a disaster. Montas and Montgomery have each had 7 starts. Montas has pitched 36 innings. Monty's pitched 43. Boy, those 43 innings would look better on the Yankees because he's pitched so well. Montas's whip, that's walks and hits per inning pitched, is 1.459. That means he averages allowing 1.5 batters on base or runners every single inning he pitches. That's not a great way to prevent runs if a batter and a half are reaching base every single inning you're pitching. Montgomery's whip, 0.90. That means there's less than a batter reaching base every inning. Montas's ERA since coming to the Yankees, 5.94. Montgomery's ERA since going to the St. Louis Cardinals, 1.45. Since coming to the Yankees, Frankie Montas is 1-3. Jordan Montgomery is 5-0. It didn't look like a good trade at the time, and it still looks like a bad trade. In fact, it's looking worse. Quick commercial break here. My wonderful Yankees book, The Least Among Them, continues to earn lots of awards. It just won a few more awards from the Colorado Independent Publishing Association. It won the gold in history, and it won the silver in sports. I'm going to be in the Mahwah, New Jersey Public Library on Monday, September 12th at 7 p.m. talking about this wonderful book. We can also talk Yankees. We can talk Yankees history. And it would be great to meet so many more of you at that wonderful event. Please take a look at The Least Among Them, a phenomenal Yankees book. I was just interviewed on a podcast earlier this week. That podcast will run, I think, this coming week. And I'm telling you, everyone who's read the book, the reviewers, the writers who I asked to look at it before it was published, people who've read it, and there are thousands of them, have all told me what a phenomenal Yankees book it is. It's completely original, and it's completely unique. If you haven't had a chance to see The Least Among Them, take a look at The Least Among Them. All right, so last night, the Yankees lost. They are now just 2 games ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays in the loss column. That's 2 games ahead, and they still have 2 games to play with each other. Now, the Yankees have played a few more games, so they'll still be ahead of the standings. But the loss column, if the Rays win today and if the Rays win tomorrow, the loss column is what's important. They would be basically tied. They would have the exact same amount of losses. That would be terrible for a team that just a few months ago had a 15.5 game lead. This is an epic collapse. It's an epic collapse in part because the Yankees have no answers. And they have no answers because they just are doing things that don't make sense. Now, last night, Aaron Hicks had maybe one of his worst games ever. Aaron Hicks was responsible, in large part, for the Rays getting 3 of their 4 runs. There was a fly ball hit down the left field line. Aaron Hicks went for the ball. He gloved it in fair territory, and the ball popped out of his glove. Hicks carried himself into foul territory, and then for a long second or two, stood facing the wall, dejected, knowing that he didn't catch the ball. And then he must have realized that the ball was fair, and by the time he picked up the ball, 2 runs had scored. The next batter hit one over his head. Hicks turned to the left, but the ball went over his right shoulder. By the time he pirouetted, turned around, the ball was over his head and against the wall, and another run had scored. After that inning, Aaron Boone benched Aaron Hicks. After the game, though, Aaron Boone said, "I didn't bench him. I just took him out of the game. No, I wasn't giving him a penalty. No, we're not mad at him." That kind of thing. And I understand that you don't want to put your players and hang them out to dry. I get that. You want your manager to have their back. But at some point, the Yankees have to say that there is some type of accountability for players playing poorly. We haven't seen that. What we've seen is a team with the manager and the front office seemingly intent on always running out the veterans and feeling like the veteran players are going to turn it around. Aaron Hicks isn't going to turn it around. He has not been a good baseball player for a number of years, and yet the Yankees continue to run him out there. He batted leadoff the other day, and then he batted third. And don't say, well, it's just because there's so many injuries, because last year the same thing was happening. We saw Aaron Hicks batting third. We saw him batting fourth. We saw him batting fifth. We saw him batting at the top of the order when it was very apparent that he wasn't hitting. But the Yankees seem to stick with these guys. Again, when Aaron Boone was brought in, it was supposed to be because he was going to have the attitude and the approach that let the young players flourish. Well, where are these young players who are flourishing? How come they're not flourishing? And how come they're not getting a chance to play? Now, I've been on the banging the drum, if you will, saying that the Yankees should be playing Estevan Florial. And people have criticized me for that, saying, well, he's not that good. Well, maybe he's not. Maybe he's terrible. But at this point, wouldn't you rather see the 24-year-old getting a chance and figuring out Major League Baseball? That's Florial. Than the 32-year-old? That's Hicks, who just can't do it anymore. His head's not in the game. When he missed that ball and stood there for that long second or two, it spoke volumes. The Yankees need to do something. They need to send a message to the team. We've seen other players not hustle. We've seen them be lackadaisical. We've seen them make very bad decisions. We've seen this for years. It's been a trait of the Aaron Boone era. And yet we don't see the players held responsible for that. What the Yankees need to do, and I feel bad for Aaron Hicks, I really do. But what they really need to do is make a bold statement. And they need to say, Aaron Hicks, you're done. We're going to DFA you. Now, he's a talented player. Just like Joey Gallo, he might be a guy that everyone feels can thrive once he's out of New York. And here's the thing. I hope he does. I like Aaron Hicks. I hope Aaron Hicks goes to another team and puts up the kind of numbers that his talent says he can. But he hasn't been doing that for the Yankees. And the Yankees need to do something loud and clear and say, you know what? The time is now that we can't accept players not focusing, losing their heads during games, and contributing to us losing. The standard has to be higher. It's time for the Yankees to make a bold decision. They've passed on so many possible bold decisions. They should have signed Bryce Harper years ago. I wrote about it at the time. I've written about it since. That would have been a bold decision. That would have said, we are in this thing to win. The Yankees could have signed Justin Verlander a number of years ago, right at the beginning of September, at the end of August. They didn't. If they had, it would have said, we're in this thing to win. That's the way the Yankees used to operate. They don't operate that way anymore. They operate sort of like, we'll try our best. We'll give it our best, but pretty good is good. Pretty good isn't good. Good enough never is. It's not good to be good. Not when you're the Yankees. The Yankees need to be great. And the Yankees haven't been great very often this entire century. We're in the year 2022. It doesn't look like the Yankees will win the World Series this year. They've won one World Series since 2000. Think about that. 22 years. And the only year they did win the World Series, 2009, was when they went big. They signed CC Sabathia. They signed Mark Teixeira. They signed AJ Burnett. They brought in Nick Swisher. They brought in players. They said, we are going for it. It's really the only time the Yankees have said that this entire century. Now, yesterday was Jeter Day, right? And it was beautiful. Derek Jeter's a great Yankee. The Yankees have to realize something. They need to look at themselves in the mirror. Now, I'm not a fan of booing. I don't boo. I respect these players. I respect what they're trying to do. Many of you know I still play baseball. I'm not the greatest baseball player ever. I'm trying my hardest. I do my best, as I believe they are, as I believe Aaron Hicks is. I think he's doing his best. His best right now isn't good enough. It's not good enough for the Yankees. It's not good enough for a team that needs to win the World Series. So at that point, you need to say, we're holding you accountable. We're letting you go. Go to another team and thrive. I hope he thrives. I hope if Aaron Judge doesn't come back, and if I were Aaron Judge, why would I come back? But I hope he goes, if he does, goes to another team and performs great. I hope he has 170 home run seasons. I hope he goes to the Hall of Fame. I want him to stay a Yankee, but if he doesn't stay a Yankee, I don't wish ill will on him. But at the Jeter event yesterday, when they mentioned the name Brian Cashman, the fans booed. When Hal Steinbrenner came out, and this wasn't the first time, the fans booed. Now, if I'm Hal Steinbrenner and I'm Brian Cashman, again, Paul Semendinger, not a fan of booing. But if I'm those guys, I have to look in the mirror. I have to look at the big picture and say, why are the Yankee fans, 50,000 of them yesterday or so, something like that, why are they booing me? We always put a winner on the field. We haven't had a losing season in 30 some years. Why aren't the fans happy? The fans aren't happy because they don't get the sense the Yankees are all in. You know, they traded Jordan Montgomery for a guy who's injured. Harrison Bader still hasn't played. Think about that. Some people are saying that was the bold move. That was not the bold move. That was a strange move. It was an interesting move. I think it was a bonehead move. I don't think it was smart at all, and I said so at the time. You don't trade a solid left-handed starter when you need starting pitching for a guy who's injured, who still now hasn't played, and today's September the 10th. He's not playing today. There's only 23 games left. For that trade to make any sense for this year, and that's what it was made for. It wasn't made for the future. If that trade is to make any sense for this year, boy, Harrison Bader's going to have to come back in the last 20 games, the last 16 games. How many games is he going to play? And play like Superman. He's going to have to hit a home run every time up to make up for all they've lost in Jordan Montgomery this last month or so. Just doesn't make sense. The Yankees don't seem to have a plan. They have a shortstop, IFK. He's not a power hitter. He comes up the other day, the game I was at, Wednesday night, and he hits a grand slam. It's his third home run of the year, his second in the last couple of weeks. But he basically went the first 5 months of the year or so without hitting a home run. Then what happens? Now, I know they're decimated by injuries. I get it. But the next day after he hits a grand slam, only his third home run of the season, and a guy everybody knows is not a power hitter. They knew that when they got him. They batted him cleanup. That just sounds like a team that's making it up as they go along, right? You're going to bat Isaiah Kiner-Falefa cleanup? Well, he's hot. He hit a grand slam. Come on. Let's think about why the fans aren't happy. They're not happy because the team's not performing and they don't seem to have answers, and the answers they have don't seem to make sense. My goodness. Time goes far too quickly. Would you believe a half hour is just about up? We didn't get a chance to talk about the new rules. Maybe next week. We didn't get a chance to talk about Yankees Hall of Fame, the idea my son Ethan came up with, which I think is brilliant. It's something that we really need to get into, this idea of the Yankees making a Hall of Fame. I also want to talk about Yankee Stadium itself. If you look at Yankee Stadium the next time you go, just take a look at the walls. The Yankees have sold virtually every square inch of that place to advertising. At the same time that the Yankees say we can't bring in this player or that player, or this guy's too much, or we might not make Aaron Judge the biggest contract offer, or whatever, because we need money, the most valuable franchise in the sport, billions more than any other team. Take a look at Yankee Stadium the next time you're there, or when it's on TV, and just look at the walls. Every single wall, everywhere, has ads on it. This is a team that's making money by the handful. And at the same time that they're giving us this litter all over the beautiful stadium of ads everywhere, they say, well, we can't afford this player. We're not interested in that player, etc. They don't go big. They try to be smart. try to be cute. Oh, we're going to trade our left-handed pitcher for the center fielder who doesn't really have great stats, though. Some people, dig deep and go, oh, look at his WOBA and this and that. He really performed over the expectation 2 years ago or whatever. But he's really not a great offensive player, and he's hurt. Instead of going big and getting the best players. It's been the pattern. It's why the Yankees have been good and not great. It's why the fans are frustrated. The Yankees have to do something. Hal Steinbrenner, Brian Cashman, they have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, why are the fans booing us? Again, I don't agree with booing. I appreciate that they're doing their best, but right now their best isn't good enough. The Yankees need better. The Yankees need a new direction. All right, my friends, that's our half hour. Time goes too quickly. We will see you right back here next Saturday at 7 a.m. Remember, the Start Spreading the News podcast with EJ Fagan comes every Monday at 9 p.m. And I'll see you in about a half an hour on the Mac and Jack Saturday Debate Show. Have a great day.